How much is the success in our lives dependent on where we are born? This is a map of China. My mom was born here in Macau, and my dad was born here in Hong Kong. Macau was a Portuguese colony and Hong Kong was a British colony. Because they were both European territories, it was easier for them to both obtain visas to the U.S. My parents decided to hop on a plane and leave their lives in Hong Kong not knowing when they would come back. They immigrated to San Francisco, California with the hopes of providing a better future for their kids. They set up their businesses, and my two sisters and I were born and raised in San Francisco. We were able to attend great schools growing up, and we all ended up going to college. I ended up here in San Luis Obispo, California, attending Cal Poly SLO. At Cal Poly, I have met the most amazing people and received endless opportunities, and I'm able to continue my education at this incredible school. But what if my whole life and the opportunities I have received are based on luck and where I was born? This little girl's name is Rosa. She is from Mexico and was born here in Mexico City. Rosa's mother was a victim of human sexual trafficking. Instead of Rosa being raised by her family, she was found in a plastic bag in a dumpster. Luckily, someone found her and was able to take her into a shelter called Casa de las Mercedes. In the summer of 2016, I spent 2 months working at this orphanage, and I met so many young girls and women rescued from human trafficking and sexual and physical abusive relationships. The Virgin Las Mercedes represented the saint that protected the girls on the streets of La Merced, where it was infamous in Mexico City for human trafficking and prostitution. The girls that I've met and worked with were ages 8 to 14 years old, and they were all rescued from sexual exploitation. They were incredibly strong, and it was difficult to even try to process and understand what they went through. However, one thing that kept reoccurring to me during my time at the orphanage was, how did the world let this happen to them?
She was 4 years old the first time a man looked at her the way a man looks at his wife on their wedding day. Little girls are supposed to dream about being models and doctors and veterinarians. Instead, she fought sleep, eyes wide with terror of another night greeted by her stepfather's shadow. He was a real monster in her bedroom, and Mom, she was too fragile, too selfish to accept the truth that her little girl's innocence had been stolen one night when her boyfriend decided she wasn't good enough anymore. And since the little girl never had a real father, she accepted his advances because he always promised her his touches were acceptable, because he loved her. When you don't know yourself and you don't love yourself, you will fall for anything that sounds like love and feels like love. She was a walking corpse, stained with the fingerprints of strangers. And all she wanted was to walk the earth without the heaviness, the weight of all the men who tore a piece of her and took it with them. She never made it to see her 18th birthday. This is for the pain, for the stains that bath water won't wash away, for the scars left on the hearts of the fatherless child. This is for the girls objectified instead of praised like queens. This is for the agony. Growing up without a father, but all you really want is love, and you don't understand love. So one day when some guy stops you in a train station or a street corner and tells you you're beautiful, you are quickly intrigued. You like the fact that someone notices you, and you will do anything to feel like he's everything, and he promises you everything, and the things he convinces you to do, they don't seem that bad if afterwards he shows you how much he loves you. Your morals are abandoned on that sidewalk where you turned your first trick. Your beauty is left in that hotel room where some stranger touched you like his girlfriend and then left the money on the nightstand. And every night, you die again, compromising your worth for what your pimp calls love and security. The hustle, the streetlights, the schemes, it never seems worth it, but you have the liquor to comfort your fears. And as long as your profits meet expectations, you will have what you always wanted your whole life. Love. Love that doesn't feel right, but it's all you think you're worth, so you take it every day. You sleep when the sun comes up, rise when the sun is down. Conceal the torment with makeup and stylish hairdos. Put on your best outfits, something arousing because you have to make them happy. The men, the tricks, the pimps.
I was sold as a sex slave when I was 5 years old. I didn't really understand what sex was. I had been raped before by my dad, and then eventually at 5 I was sold by my dad. But deep down inside, I think I knew something was wrong, and I was always afraid. To those who don't know much about human trafficking or find it hard to understand, I think I would just say take the time to learn about it. I think you're able to enter into a very compassionate and loving and non-judgmental frame of mind. I think as an advocate, success would be, for me, just helping people be themselves again. Giving them opportunities so that they don't go back to that, but that they just have a curiosity and a strong desire to be free, to be themselves, to explore, to learn, and to always improve and not be held back anymore by their past or by the abuse.
As a global citizen, what can you do to help fight against this problem?
My first customer was a tourist named Robert. He told me that if there was anything I needed or wanted, he would buy for me. I said okay. Later on, I went out with Japanese and Korean men.
The sexual exploitation of children in travel and tourism has dramatically expanded across the globe. The huge growth in international and domestic travel has increased both the number of travelers and tourists and the number of children vulnerable to sexual exploitation.
From my very first memories, I remember being sexually molested and raped by truck drivers. I grew up along the interstate that goes all across the United States, and there were truckers all along it.
And the spread of the internet and mobile technology has made virtually no place out of the reach of the predators of this heinous crime. Any child can become a victim, but children who become vulnerable are likely to be forced into prostitution at travel and tourist hubs.
I went to where all the gay bars are in Pattaya. Foreigners would chat with me, buy me drinks, and then take me somewhere for business.
I was given drugs or forced to drink, and I was taken to the truck stop.
They are contacted and groomed by pimps or perpetrators, either in person or via the internet. They may even be trafficked by family members.
The way it was all presented to me was, only special little girls get to go to adult parties, have sex, like big girls. And so I just thought this is what happened.
There is no such thing as a typical child sex offender, although they are usually male. Some may be pedophiles, but most are not. They may be foreign or domestic, young or old. They are from all over the world. They sexually abuse children because they think they can get away with it.
There's very much this sense of nothing's going to happen to me. I believe there's a sense of entitlement. There's a sense of a right to it.
Many victims are too afraid or ashamed to speak up about being abused, and witnesses seldom report, creating a sense of freedom from any legal repercussions in the minds of the offenders. And gaps and conflicts in law enforcement leave exploited children betrayed by the world as the offenders walk away from their crimes, searching for the next child to violate. The impact of sexual exploitation on a child cannot be overstated. For victims, the legacy can include severe and lifelong physical, emotional, and psychological damage.
I don't like what happened to me, and I don't want to remember it. I want other children who have been victims or will become one to know my story and learn from it.
As our world becomes smaller through increased travel and the internet, we all have a role to play. Governments, organizations, law enforcement, as well as you and me, in protecting children from this horrific abuse by travelers and tourists.
It takes a village to raise a child, but it also takes a village to abuse a child. So much of this happens in public spaces, and that's really what it takes. Speaking up. We all have that voice, and we can use our voices.
What can you do to help with this issue? Stay informed. Spread the word by talking to others. If you see something suspicious, report it to authorities. Volunteer at local shelters for sex trafficked victims. Learn about local laws and what your local Congress representative is doing to help fight this problem. Donate to local shelters and organizations. And lastly, speak out for those who can't speak for themselves.